And now I think I'm on there. There we go. WKRAP, middle of nowhere, Georgia, double secret location on double secret probation. So secret, I don't even know where I am. Dusty knows where we are. Say hello, Dusty. As I see that we have Bams, Dragon, Stewart, and Helter. Already we're waiting. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining us today. Say thank you, Dusty. Dusty's not interested. That's okay. Some more things to talk about today as we go on. Some interesting snippets from the news. Some additional names I have to add to the roster to say thank you for participating in the GoFundMe. That would be Timothy, Kimberly, and Robert. Thank you for helping out, you guys. It's very much appreciated. Goes a long way towards taking care of all of the strays, veterinary bills and expenses, and so on. Joined now by Drew, Preparedness, and Cyber Jack Senior, I guess. Is that Cyber Jack Senior? Thanks for joining us today. I have Dusty here. It won't help. I'm still going to get a strike. I've gotten a strike on every single live stream on Coffee Talk, without question. And about I think two so far on Prepper University, as this is being simultaneously broadcast on both the Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You would hope that the cats would help. It doesn't help. It's not helping, is it, sweetheart? That's unfortunate, but I have to try. Besides people like the cats, there's Bingo. Thanks for joining us today, Bingo. As I call people out, I do try to read some of the comments out loud because I know there are people who are listening but not able to watch. There are people who are listening who are not able to watch. You want to get down? Go ahead. Dusty has left the building. And we'll take another couple of moments to allow for people to be able to check in here as we go on. And Cyber says, unbelievable. Yes, indeed, it is unbelievable. Unbelievable. There's Stacy joining us today. Thank you, Stacy. DIY says, one thing about SHTF, if you will have to keep your pets inside because some people don't mind pet cuisine. No, they get hungry enough, they'll eat anything that walks, swims, crawls, or flies. Just ask anyone in Venezuela, they'll tell you. So, yeah, they will cook your pets. That is true. And Tyrannicide, good morning, afternoon, depending upon where you are. Yes, indeed. Well, it is afternoon where I am. Of course, wherever you are, it may be something different entirely. There's Lady, says she's glad that she's able to make it. Well, we're glad you were able to make it as well. Hope everything is coming through clearly. Helter said that that I can be seen and heard clearly. I try my best. And Lady says, has anyone heard about Ohio since the derailment? I haven't heard it. I haven't even seen anything in the news about it. I know a few people brought it up in the live stream the other day and talked about it a little bit, but I have not even seen a news blurb on it. Not at all. What I do have here, I thought this was interesting, and this just popped up in the feeds, actually. It's from Massachusetts. I used to live in Massachusetts. A lot has changed. It wasn't that great when I was there. It's even worse now. And I'll go ahead and I'll pull that up. And it says, Massachusetts urges residents to open their homes to border crossers. Open your homes. Open your homes and open your hearts. What's wrong with you people? Let those border crossers in. What are you doing, Dusty? Yeah, get out of there. Massachusetts is facing a growing influx of border crossers and illegal immigrants, contributing to the state's homelessness crisis. In response, Governor Maura Healey has called upon residents to consider offering their empty bedrooms and apartments as temporary shelter for those individuals. The initiative aims to provide immediate accommodations until longer-term solutions can be arranged. However, This call to action has sparked debates and raised concerns among Massachusetts residents. Let's explore the details and implications of this request. Yeah, details and implications. Is she crazy? This just open your doors. As Monkey has joined us. Thanks for joining us, Monkey. Bam says, I have a plan for those who hunt my pets for food. I bet. And Preparedness said the politicians should lead by example and open their doors first. Oh, that won't happen. They want you to do it. Although it used to be the other way around. I mean, I guess she's been watching old episodes of Upstairs, Downstairs or something. Once upon a time, it was considered a talking point. If you were an aristocrat, a wealthy person who took a refugee into your home at wartime. You saw a lot of this in World War I. It's like, oh, I've got refugees in my home. I'm so humble and I'm so giving and charitable. That was a thing. The reality of it was that these aristocrats never actually had to lay eyes on these people. Their servants were the ones that got stuck taking care of them. And most of them ended up in essentially slave labor. They got conscripted into farms, digging potatoes or God knows what. But that was a thing. This is a different thing. This is ridiculous. Open up your door. Are you going to be compensated for that? I'm going to take strangers who cross the border illegally. I don't know where they're from, what their intentions are, what their background is. They haven't been vetted at all. And just let them stay in my house, especially after we've seen the way that they've treated hotel rooms that have been opened up to them and things like that. They're going to come and tear your house apart. TIY says, is Venezuela stabilized as far as currency, trade, employment? That's a good question, because suddenly they just dropped off the feeds too. Haven't heard anything about Venezuela in a long time either. Really haven't. Bingo says, Lady Pop, there is a big trend on TikTok of people going to look around, but Norfolk bought all the land, a hell a lot of the town. Oh, they buying out the town is what he's saying. Going on here, governor's plea for housing assistance. Governor Maura Healey appealing to Massachusetts residents who have vacant rooms or apartments to host newly arrived families in need of shelter. The objective is to provide temporary housing while longer-term accommodations are arranged for those individuals. Yeah, they'll forget about them once you put them up. Many of the families seeking housing are immigrants who have fled violence in countries such as Haiti. Oh, Haitian immigrants have been going to Massachusetts since the 70s. I don't know if that counts. And have journeyed through various states before arriving in Massachusetts. Why are they journeying through states and ending up in Massachusetts? Because those states don't want them either. And here this is what I was just talking about. State-funded hotel accommodations. As part of its efforts to address the housing needs of new arrivals, Massachusetts is currently funding nearly 40 hotels and motels across the state to house border crossers and illegal immigrants. This expenditure is being covered by taxpayers. I'm glad they pointed that out, because that's the big point. That's the big deal right there, is that taxpayers are paying for this, raising concerns among some residents who question the financial burden placed on the state. Yeah, that I'm glad that was pointed out, actually, because that's very important. And Chris says they have no right to be here, and that the people are brought here to destroy our country. It sure looks that way. Incidences like this lend credibility to the notion that this is being allowed to go on to shatter our infrastructure, to destroy us, to destroy families, to destroy homes, to crush us with tax debt. Bob says hotels. Chris said America is becoming a third world shithole by importing all of these criminals. And Monkey said these people get everything handed to them while U.S. citizens get jacked. Well, you get the bill. You get the bill there, buddy. Preparedness says our hotels are swamped with these people. And those hotels are being wrecked. They're being wrecked because they bring a lot of their bad habits with them. Chris said American citizens can't afford gas, groceries, or rent, but we are overcome with them. But then they want you to give up a room in your house. Now, funny thing, the way the laws work in Massachusetts, if you tried to rent a room in your house, the state would give you all kinds of shit. Dragon said Massachusetts politicians want the border crossers to loot people's homes. That could end up happening. And Garsh said they're also trying to basically ban guns in Massachusetts. Well, they've been trying that since I was a kid in Massachusetts. It's very difficult out there to do anything firearms related. Yeah, Black Rain, that's what the natives said. Preparedness said there obviously is no will to stop erosion in our society. Well, the people that could effect a change are not willing to change. And so we're subjected to their whim. And Chris said, I saw multiple destroyed hotels. Yeah, I'm sure you did, because that's what's been going on. They've been putting them up in hotels, paying for it with your tax dollars. The solution to the fact that they don't have enough money is to raise taxes or to invent new ones or to invent new fines or regulations or things like that. No, they don't integrate, Chris. It says these people don't integrate. No, they want us to adapt to them as opposed to the way it used to be where you came here and tried to be an American or as American as possible. Learn the language, learn the history, get your citizenship, earn it. Earn it if you want to be here. Any other country, most other countries anyways, will make you. A lot of other countries are so serious about it. China, for example, you're a Chinese citizen or nothing. There is no dual citizenship with China, if you get my point. And Django said, God forbid we just solve the problem. No, nobody wants to solve the problem. They want to make it worse until everybody's crushed. DIY said in the UK, it's the same with the immigrants. They're flooding in. We're getting pushed aside for public housing, and the immigrants are getting it first. And somebody was being put on blast in the news today for saying that the UK is being converted to Islam. And I already know that they call London Londonistan. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the angle. Helter said those politicians are willing to sell the U.S. taxpayers down the river. Third world illegal immigrants who hate us just to virtue signal. And then Monkey said, at this point, I'm ready for the collapse to happen so something new can bloom, just like grass that grows again after a volcanic eruption. And that's what these politicians want too, only they think they're going to control what grows new out of what they destroy. They're ruining us on purpose. Yeah, Chris said his whole neighborhood turned into a Muslim Sharia law overnight. And he sold his house and moved. Yeah, Preparedness said soon all countries will be the same, a collection of segregated communities. And Django said maybe that global slave race conspiracy theory had some validity. Well, we are all slaves to one point or another, as it is anyways. Anything that you owe to, you're a slave to, first and foremost being your taxes. Yeah, Chris said Canada's all Indians and Arabs now. It was Chinese for a while after Hong Kong was annexed back to China. A lot of people fled China or fled Hong Kong for Canada, but that was some years ago. Sergeant Kane says he can back the comment on the UK. He lives in Yorkshire, and it's the worst in the cities. Most buildings are kebab shops and mosques now. Wow. And Arakel, not only London, Greece, Germany, Moscow. Yeah, it's happening all over the place because they're bringing their habits, their ways, their lifestyle with them. They're not adapting to where they're going. They're trying to force where they're going to adapt to them. And too many lawmakers are willing to do that because they think by pandering to these people, they're going to control them. That's not the way to do it. That's not the way to do it. They shouldn't have been allowed in the first place. You know, countries used to be a lot stricter about all of that. Tyrannicide said, we're still behind the 8 ball. If you don't create before you destroy, you'll be left with nothing. Yeah. But they don't realize that. They think they're going to be in charge. They think they're going to be ahead of it. They think they're going to be at the forefront of it. And like I said yesterday, while they're planning on being the man behind the curtain, They forget that even the Wizard and the Wizard of Oz was a slave to that system. Chris said he's seen a lot of people getting robbed in London. When he went to Paris, it was all Africans and Muslims. And Paris is nonstop riots. I wouldn't even dream of going to Paris. They've been rioting nonstop for like 4 years. And lady said that she heard a news article with a Muslim. He was saying by 2030 is to have all of UK to be Muslims. Yeah, and that's what I was just talking about. I don't know who it was that said that, but that was in the news today. Yeah, preparedness says to check out Bradford. Bradford in England. And Eric Hill said a recommendation, watch a movie, Children of Men. Yeah, Children of Men. It's another book they try to ban. Oh, Focus is here. Thanks for joining us today, Focus. Glad you made it. And DIY said, like Tony Montoya said, we only have our word and our balls, and we should not break them for no one, no matter how hard the situation gets. We stand true to our beliefs. Yeah, Tony Montoya said that. Of course, that is from Scarface. That is from the film Scarface. All I have is my word and my balls. It is very true. Helter said, I find it ironic the immigrants who escape their hellish landscape of a country and end up turning their new homes into the same hellscape. Why'd they bother escaping their home in the first place? And that's a good question. I don't know. They're under the impression things were going to get better, but didn't adapt and weren't willing to work towards it. Now, this I thought was interesting, and this is in the feed today. It's been a while since we've seen anything like this happening. It says Kenya Doomsday cult deaths top 400 as detectives exhume 12 more bodies with the pastor in custody. And Stuart says, I'm an immigrant living in England. I arrived by boat in 76. Yeah, but I mean, did you bring all of the hardship with you, or did you try to improve once you arrived, or did your family try to improve once you arrived? Because that's really the difference. Chris says his Muslim neighbors left trash in the streets, beat their kids, wives, and live on welfare. Wow. And then Focus said modern day Jim Jones. Yeah, modern day. It's been a while since something like this popped up in the news. But just really quickly here, it says Nairobi, Kenya. The number of people who died in connection with Kenya's Doomsday cult has crossed the 400 mark as detectives exhumed 12 more bodies on Monday, believed to be followers of a pastor who ordered them to fast to death in order to meet Jesus. Well, Pastor Paul McKenzie, who is linked to the cult based in a forested area in Malindi, coastal Kenya, is in police custody along with 36 other suspects. All have yet to be charged. Coast Regional Commissioner Rhoda Onyacha on Monday said the number of those who died has risen to 403, with 95 people rescued. Last month, some suspects and people rescued started a hunger strike in prison and at the rescue center, prompting the prosecutor to take them to court for attempting to kill themselves. Most of them agreed to resume eating, but one suspect died in custody. So they still, sitting in jail, they still tried to kill themselves. And then you're going to take them to court. They're in jail, and you're going to take them to court for attempting to kill themselves and sentence them to what? More jail so they can kill themselves? I don't understand that. Some 613 people have so far been reported missing to Kenya Red Cross officers stationed in Malindi town. Detectives are still finding mass graves. Onyansha said 253 of the 403 bodies have undergone DNA matching. Pathologists have earlier said most of the bodies were decomposed. So let me see. McKenzie moved to the forest area in 2019 after his church was closed over his preaching, which included asking children not to go to school. I don't care about kids not going to school because I have issues with public school. Where is this guy from? He was previously arrested and released on bond over the disappearance of children. Well, that should have been a big red flag. Judicial Commission of Inquiry formed by President William Ruto to establish what happened and who is liable was quashed by a court order after opposition leader Leah Odinga filed a petition against it. So where is this guy from? Where is Paul McKenzie from? Does anybody know? That's my question. Stewart says he left the hardships in Rhodesia. That's good to know. And Chris said Zimbabwe is a slum compared to white Rhodesia. And Erikel said Commander-in-Chief's son's case is being seriously on trial as we chat, expecting a major event to cover that subject under the rug. All people is here. Africans and Caribbeans always seem to corrupt the gospel in order to enslave their own groups. Well, I mean, that can be said in any country, though, because you can't tell me some of these megachurch people who go to these places and give up all their money and hear false gospels aren't enslaved in a way. Helter said, I wish leadership would be the first ones to go out in these scenarios. They might be seen as martyrs and defied. Cult leaders these days just don't want to get their hands dirty. Huh. And DIY says he doesn't have a problem with immigrants, just the governments who are in favor of them over the natives. I understand what you mean. And all people, the nations of the African continent and Caribbean islands are filled with more prosperity-based megachurches per capita than ever found in America. And Dragon said this is approaching Jonestown's levels, which was around 900. But yeah, Paul McKenzie, where is this guy from? If you can even find it. Because if I look it up, all I get is information about the Kenya massacre, but not where he's from or where his churches previously were. I'm going to assume he's African. I don't see images of him either because of his middle name. This is Paul Nthenge McKenzie. Sounds African. So I don't know. But it's been a long time since I've heard about something like that happening. Preparedness is self-proclaimed pastor Paul McKenzie, founder of Good News International Church. If it says International Church, it's African. Any church I see around here that says international anything, it's an African church. Chris says, sound like Paul McKenzie encouraged them to starve. Yeah. He said they would find Jesus. And he says it was that it says he was a cab driver, can't find his origin. Probably not going to. It's probably not going to come up that easily. Not going to come up that easily. Unfortunately. And it never ceases to amaze me how people can get sucked in by someone who's so charismatic. The Bible warns about that too. You're not supposed to put your faith in a man. You're not supposed to put your faith in a man. But just because this guy is charismatic, I'm going to starve myself to death. You have to wonder about the mindset of people who go in for that sort of thing, who obey that, who listen, who trust a person that much. But you don't just see that in religion. You see it in politics. You see that in media. There are people who will say, relentlessly follow Beyonce and whatever she says. Just as an example, if a celebrity is popular enough, if someone in the news is popular enough, there are people that will bend over backwards to follow them and to believe whatever they say. And if they're disproven, refuse to accept it, refuse to admit it. It's incredible. It's incredible how people are willing to willing to suck that up, willing to do almost anything, give up their life savings, give up their lives, give up their families because a person said so. Dragon said believing in something should not come at the cost of your family and friends. And Chris said, have you seen the guy in Africa tricking people to buy some miracle drink? Another one? Is there one specific that you're talking about? I've seen a lot of crazy stuff, especially religious oriented, getting people to drink kerosene, making people eat grass, crazy stuff that they do in some of those churches down there. It makes me think of, and I forget his name. It was in Japan, the cult leader. He was a billionaire, and he was the one that arranged for the nerve gas attacks in the subway. It failed, and they caught him, and he was being tried for execution. They were gonna execute him. I think they eventually did. And he used to sell bottles of his bath water to his followers. Helder said cults never refer to themselves as a cult. They say things like, no, we're just a friendly congregation, a group of people. Well, nobody's going to say they're a cult. Nobody does that. Garch says Soko Asahara. Is it Soko Asahara? Because I don't remember, but I just remember the story. He's the one that arranged that, and they were supposed to they had a pouch or a bag or something like that, and they had sharpened umbrellas, and they were going to puncture it on subway cars and release nerve gas. He corrected it. He says, Dragon says, Shoko Asahara. Shoko Asahara. Responsible for the 95 Tokyo subway sarin gas attacks executed by hanging in 2018. Yeah, it took him forever to get around to that execution, but it took him forever to get around to that. And All People's putting up some history lessons there. I'm just posting it for you to take a look at. But he was he was a billionaire. He was worth billions. That's probably what kept them tied up in court for so long before they finally executed him. And then again, if I remember correctly, he sold his bathwater to people. If it was indeed his bathwater, because there's no way to know. There's no way to know. But can you imagine being so famous you could sell your bathwater? Actually, that doesn't just wasn't. It doesn't surprise me that much. It really doesn't, because if you remember, some months ago I did a story. There's some social influencer, somebody who on social media who sells their farts to people. I had put that up a few months back, and it's like, who is buying this? Apparently they're selling. Some people are crazy. And Chris said it was Dominique Conde selling gasoline as a drink in Africa as a miracle cure. Yeah, it'll cure some things and worsen others. It'll cure you of your life. Who was that? I forget who that was in that story that was selling farts. And here is your next big news blurb. Yeah, I know. And that's the thing, Bams. It says, can you imagine yourself being so stupid as to buy bathwater? Yeah, but there are people. There are people who will do that, who will buy into those things, who will buy anything, who would just want a piece of somebody so bad. And it's like, that's amazing. Who does that? And now we have here Denver. Denver Mayor Johnson declares homeless emergency in Denver. As All People continues with their lesson here about nomadic African tribes, did not settle until European civilized area because the tribes thought those lands were filled with demons and goblins. Well, there's a lot of superstition with those tribes. Chris said Colorado was a shithole compared to 15 years ago. Yeah, I was there probably 15 years ago for a visit. Helter said people would actually eat off of his Asahara's plate, drink his dirty bath water, touch his feet, and other things they would normally deem very unhealthy for a person to do. And all people elaborating there, some of them may have used the bathwater for occult rituals. That's possible. Helter said part of the initiation rites. And Monkey says he remembers his dad telling him once he drank gasoline, he almost died. He was young when he did that. Still don't know why he did that. Now, when you're young, you do silly things. But the Denver mayor, there he is. The Mile High City. New Denver mayor declares homeless emergency. Less than 24 hours after being sworn in, New Denver mayor Mike Johnson said he was declaring an emergency to combat growing homelessness in the city. Funny how this always happens in progressive cities. Johnson said the goal of the emergency declaration is to get 1,000 people access to housing by the end of the year. How do you do it? Send them to Massachusetts. Johnson said the declaration would make it easier to mobilize city resources and also give the city access to more resources at the state and potentially federal levels. He intends for the declaration to also bring city agencies together to focus on the issue. Translation: tax dollars. He described how the declaration would be used to speed up the creation of temporary housing to get people off the streets. We know that to be able to identify locations, to be able to rehab them, retrofit them, to be able to permit them, to be able to get construction up on those sites is going to take a tremendous amount of effort to seed from our intentional agencies or internal agencies, excuse me, and our external partners, Johnson said. That's a word salad for you. And the power of the emergency declaration is to move much more quickly and certainly through what could otherwise be a slow regulatory process. So you want to form a bunch of committees. Who's going to pay for that? There is no upfront cost to declaring the emergency. Yeah, here it comes. But city officials are preparing to apply for grants from the state that would use federal C virus relief dollars, the mayor said. There's any of that left? They haven't spent it all yet? Oh, man. Preparedness says homeless conundrum looks bad on the mayor. Of course it does. And Chris said China are worst about using animals for their evil medicine. Well, that's a tradition in China. That's how dinosaurs were discovered, because they used to grind the bones up or grind up the fossils because they thought they were dragon bones. And that's what first brought the Western world into the concept of dinosaur bones in the first place. All people say Colorado used to be a beautiful state associated only with fantastic skiing. Liberals and other leftists turned, I guess he means, Colorado. That's unfortunate, and that's true. Because, like I said, I was there. It was a nice place. It was clean. I didn't see any homeless people when I was in Colorado, and this is more than 15 years ago. Django said homelessness is caused by the progressives ruining HR and refusing to hire the homeless people. Chris says looks like legalizing all drugs in Denver is working well. Yeah, apparently. Monkey said there was a story where someone in LA was trying to make small studio houses for the homeless, and the government official shut down the person's attempt to help out the homeless. Yeah, he was building sheds. And they had solar panels on them so that they could have individual power. And he put them out on the corners for people to use. They had locks on the door and everything. It was like a closet apartment almost. And the city confiscated them all, and he got them back. And when he did, they had been stripped of all of their electronic components. So the solar panels and the electrical cabling and all of that was gone. The city stole it all, wouldn't give it back. But that's pointless anyways, because you don't know who you're putting in there, and they'll end up wrecking them. Again, look at all of the campers that are lined up on the streets in Los Angeles and San Francisco. There's a lot of that in California. I talked about that before. The situation with the van lords, They have van lords out there where they'll buy 10 or 20 of them from a junkyard, and those campers don't run. They won't move. They can't be moved unless they're towed. And they charge the homeless people rent for going into them. And you see the condition of those vans. Those homes that guy set up would have been in no better condition. The people would have ruined them because you can't control who's going in. And of course, if you don't pay your van lord on time, he'll burn the trailer down. There's a lot of fires like that out there. And then the camper sits there burned out because they still can't move it. Technically, it's considered a domicile. So it's a different set of laws than if you had to tow a car. If you had a car or a van or something like that sitting on the curb, they could tow it. But a camper, even a mobile camper, not a trailer, counts as a domicile, falls under different jurisdictions legally in that state. Dragon says there's been a drastic shift away from public good in the last 50 plus years with a hard slant towards increasing private wealth and ownership. Well, that's always been a case. There's always been a divide. It's nothing new. I think it's become more obvious, partially because of social media and the internet, because everything is like instant now and you can look up anything and find anything you want. But there's always been a divide like that. Dragon says, read The Jungle. That's a great example of that. Dragon, and that was written what in the no, when was that written? In the early 1900s. I know it was written before World War II. Dragon says it's been pushed with the accompanying narrative that this is the only path to true life satisfaction, fulfillment, and happiness. Yeah, the American dream, the American lie. Chris said Colorado, Arizona, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, full of Democrats, fleeing California, Oregon, Washington State. And just like with the immigrants from other countries, very often they'll bring their problems with them. Many of them don't sit there and say, okay, that didn't work. Let me try something new. They say, let me escape, but I'll bring my trouble with me. Preparedness said they're quick enough to act on the immigration problem. Charity begins at home. No, they don't want a solution. I agree. They want more problems so that they can make more regulations and more taxes and more control. And yeah, Chris says he's seen junkyards full of campers in Oregon, Washington, and California. Exactly. As we move through here, Arakel says homelessness and drugs are extreme, destructive weapons with nations planned by evil minions. And there's a big issue with rehabilitation because they all talk about rehabilitation. You can't rehabilitate someone who doesn't want it. They'll go through the motions because they don't have a choice. But when you release them, they'll be right back where they started because that's what they want. Very few people want to be rehabilitated. A lot of these people like that lifestyle, and that's something that most are not willing to accept or even recognize. Again, having experience working with the homeless myself and my wife as well, who has more than I do as far as experience with that, there's a lot of them, they like it, and they don't want your help. I saw a lot of the same thing in juvenile justice when I worked with them. Those kids didn't want any damn help. They went through the motions because they didn't have a choice. They resented every minute of it, and the majority of them went right back to that lifestyle afterwards. Helter said more housing will help the non-problematic homeless, but I guarantee the truly dangerous members of that population will refuse housing due to the requirement that you can't be a meth addict. If you could even control that, if they're even willing to vet it and it's not considered a violation of their rights or their privacy. Because yeah, there should be a screening process. Should be. But we're talking about places, picking on California again, where they give you the paraphernalia, where they have stations set up where you can go in there and get needles and get tie-offs and get equipment and get crack pipes. They'll give them to you for free. And you ask them about a rehabilitation program and they tell you they don't know where one is. Chris says, living in Nebraska, I've never seen as many out-of-state people as I have now. Doesn't surprise me. And Av Kebab, it's all top late. Just adopt Islam and live a convenient life. Is that what you're trying to say? I know he changed the word. Chris says most of them would rather smoke meth and get drunk all day while getting government handouts. Yeah, because that's all they want to do. Whether they started off that way or whether they wanted to be like that or ended up like that, it's a lifestyle they're comfortable with. And they don't want the help. You can force them, and maybe some of them will comply after, and maybe some won't. Maybe some won't. Moving of people, reshuffle, divide, and conquer. Lared says, what's your point of view of Sound of Freedom? Everybody keeps asking me that. I haven't seen the film. But it's being attacked. It's being attacked on all sides. It's being attacked by the media and by other outlets. And part of it is because of the embarrassment of the fact that a low-budget $14 million film is outpacing massive budgeted films that are going bankrupt, like Indiana Jones and the Dialysis of Destiny, because that was more than $300 million, and that's just for production. That's not even counting the advertising, and they're losing their shirts. They're not going to break even. That means that's another failure film. Sound of Freedom is doing well. Sound of Freedom is based loosely, because it's not an exact story, but based on reality. And all these media outlets want to deny it. They want to act like trafficking doesn't happen. Yes, the hell it does. Yes, it does. And it should be exposed for what it is, and it should be shown. But then think about the kind of people that are trying to cover it up, and think about the stooges that are sitting there willing to help people in Hollywood cover it up, and then wonder why. Wonder why that is. Focus said squatters are given only tickets now, or just a warning. They need to give a ticket to someone that can't pay it. These are old homestead laws that need to be abolished. And Tyrannicide said the overall root of this evil exists directly in quality of life. Even our food is poison, when historically food has always been our first medicine. Yeah. So food should be your first medicine. And there's Dilo is here. Thanks for joining us today. You're driving, Dilo? Arakel says, after seeing who are the key players and money in this movie, decided not to watch. It was an emotional honey trap for Christians and good humans. Yeah, all people said, even Jesus questioned if people wanted the help. Yeah, you have to want it. You have to want it, or it's pointless. Bam says Sound of Freedom is a distraction. And Lared says secret society behind that movie. I don't know. A lot of people seem to think so, but that could be a misdirection as well, because you can't trust anything you see in the media. You can't trust anything that you see in the media anymore. All people said, it's been said some cinemas are allowing patrons to see Sound of Freedom for free. I haven't heard that. I have not heard that. But yeah, they've already made their money. So it wouldn't hurt them if they did give away some tickets. That wouldn't surprise me. That would not surprise me at all. Now, here's another top story for you. It says, any second now, StreamYard. Come on now. As it cycles through and stalls on me. There it is. New York City Department of Health pushes reparations to eliminate black-white wealth gap. And it's not this story, as with most of the things I talk about. It's the story behind the story that bothers me. It says the New York City Department of Health is pushing reparations as an answer to racial and wealth inequities among New Yorkers, according to a new report. The report headlined, Analyzing the Racial Wealth Gap and Implications for Health Equity. There's that word equity again. Analyzing, so they want tax money for more committees, was first flagged by the New York Post and advises reparations as a solution for existing inequities between Black New Yorkers and the rest of the population. A reparations program such as federally paid cash to Black descendants of enslaved people would eliminate the Black-white wealth gap, thereby promoting racial equity. If the payment amounts established by the program were predicated on the average difference in Black and white wealth, the report claims. Really? Really? That's going to help, huh? But the Black-white wealth gap is not the only option on the table for New York City officials. Experts also discussed other racial wealth gaps, in other words, indigenous or other groups. Report claimed the goal of reparations would be to seek acknowledgement, redress, and closure for America's complicity in federal, state, and local policies, including slavery, Jim Crow, and ongoing systemic racism. They didn't have Jim Crow in New York, did they? I don't think so. Now, my question. Oh, because Slinka said they found the other channel. You found it. My question is nothing about this. There's nothing about that because it's more talking heads garbage. Oh, we need to have reparations. That's the new thing now. This is the thing that people think is going to get them elected right now. Chris says, I think it's disrespectful to successful Black people to insinuate that they are incapable of succeeding without government intervention. I agree. I agree. You would think so. You would think so, but I'm going to show you something here in a minute after this. Tyrannicide says there's more children being orphaned today than at any other point in history due to leaky viruses and experimental injections. Those P rings were taken out to consolidate and monopolize the market. And Erical says, do a bit more digging, you'll find who's behind the scenes. And Tyrannicide said, oh, he's talking about Trump there. Bams said Caucasians are only 15% of the world's population. Now, my question here is, why is the Department of Health talking about reparations? Why is the Department of Health talking about reparations? Unless higher state or federal authority coerced or bribed people there into discussing it. Why are they talking about reparations? Why is that a talking point for the Department of Health? You want to talk about something, Department of Health? How about all the rats in New York? Why don't you do something about the rats? Why don't you ask for more money for pest control? Do something about the roaches. You know how bad the roaches are in New York? Why don't you do something about your homeless population? No, we're going to talk about reparations instead. That's it. And it always catches my eye when you see a state or government agency talking about something that's not in their wheelhouse. It's not in their division, not something that they're connected to. Megan says, how many times have we been compelled to donate to a charity for the children? QCOMs imply the followers stand down and don't compromise an invisible army rescuing millions of unseen kids. Chris says, white people are the only group not allowed to have their own culture. If you go to anyone in the world, it's people from that region, but white countries are always blamed and not integrating. Because Slinka says it's all commie agenda. And Stewart said all communists should be forcibly turned into good communists. Good luck. Chris said go to Asia. You won't see many Hispanics, Black, or no, you won't. You will not. Megan said the human rats or the rodent rats. Rodents. Chris said go to Middle East, same story. But yeah, why? That's just my question. Why is the Department of Health talking about something like that? Why is that their talking point? Unless, again, they were coerced or they got some money to talk about that kind of stuff. Which brings me to this, and this caught my attention too. This is more BS news, but I thought this was interesting. You all know who this is. Ice Cube says black people are in the same place as they were in 1865. He would know. This is the guy. Where did I see? Ice Cube expressed his belief in the level of racism in America has remained unchanged since childhood, stating, I think it's pretty much the same because it's institutionalized. He discussed the persistent economic disparities. There's that again, saying in 1865, black people owned maybe 1 or 2% of America, and I believe we're still in that same place. Who paid you? Who paid you, Ice Cube? Or, yeah, Ice Cube. Who paid you off? Mr. Pulled myself up from my own bootstraps, grew up in the ghettos, developed a rap career. Became an actor. Has a current net worth of $160 million. Who sang the rap Race Card? Who remembers that? That pokes fun at people who talk like he does in this article. I don't need no race card. Isn't that his song? Race Card? Or rap, rather? It's not a song. Hardly. And isn't the purpose of Race Card? There it is, $160 million current net worth, Ice Cube. Yeah, one of the richest people. He's wealthy enough. I don't know if he's one of the richest people, but hey, 160 million is nothing to sneeze at, and earned it himself. Does he not think he's relevant anymore and this is a way to do it? Or is he just for sale? Yeah, Helter says Malcolm X warned Black America 60 something years ago about the Democratic Party, but it fell on deaf ears. He was right. He was right. And Y says maybe he meant he's still as uneducated as people back then. Maybe he is. I doubt it, though, because you don't read and memorize scripts as an actor if you've got no education. Megan, falling back on the other topic, says the health department speaking out about something not in their expertise is as inappropriate as celebrities talking about topics they have no business addressing. Influencers and fake authority. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, LA read that Europe is a model. So is Australia. So is Canada. But yeah, I mean to take that stance, and again after he went on and on, I'll see if I can find it here. Oops. See if I can find the lyrics for Race Card. It's a lot of nonsense, of course. Ain't black and white. Did you get your race card, homeboy, when you get your race card. Black as midnight or bright as Snow White. You better do me right, or I'm gonna have to take flight, put you on ice, blast you twice. If you a zebra, better come out them stripes. Just because I'm dressed like I'm straight out of jail, make more money than them white boys at Yale. Got more sense than your effing president, the college graduate. He can't pay his rent. Don't call me a brother, man. I mean, the song, it's a gobbledygook, but that song is sort of taking a stab at that. It's taking a stab at it. But now that's him. But that happens with a lot of these so-called hardcore rappers. Yeah, Chris, that's true. It says there was multiple black slave owners in the USA. Not many, but there was such a thing. Look at Snoop Dogg. F the police, F the system, screw the system, screw you. And now he bakes with Martha Stewart and sings gospel music because he's just a hustler. It's just about making money. It's about remaining relevant. Same thing with Ice Cube. He wants to be relevant. He wants to make money. He wants to be in the public eye. And taking a stance like that, as wealthy as it is, and it's always the most wealthiest that take that type of a stance these days. Like if you hear Oprah Winfrey talking about it, I don't want to hear Oprah Winfrey talking about that. She's a billionaire. I don't want to hear Beyonce talking about stuff like that. Oh, black people in this country don't have a chance. Are you serious? How much are you worth? No chance, huh? Armand says Harvard would give Cube a PhD for diverse lyrics. And Chris said most black music glorifies murder culture. It does now. When I grew up with rap and hip hop, it was just fun music. It changed drastically after the so-called East Coast versus West Coast show that they put on in the early 90s. And there's anarchy there. F the police was Ice Cube when he was in NWA, yeah. And no Vaseline and stuff like that. But that's where he's gone. That's the direction. And it makes me wonder again, why are you doing that? Why do that now? You pulled yourself up, allegedly, pulled yourself up out of poverty because you don't know 100%. You hear stories. Example, Mike Tyson. Oh, I grew up in the streets. Are you sure? Because it's my understanding that even in adolescence, his prowess was recognized and he was taken into a mansion and groomed and trained daily by professionals. Or the Williams sisters, Venus Williams and her sister. I forget her name at the moment. When the movie came out starring Will Smith, there was a lot of backlash, not just because everybody hates Will Smith now, but because people that grew up with them were like, none of that is true. They were always well cared for. But assuming that he pulled himself up by his own bootstraps, he is a success story. He is a success story, denying that it's possible for there to be a success story. It doesn't make any sense. Y says rap used to have a message. It's strange how fast the music industry spun it around. Yeah. They put that genre in a box and left it there. And Armand says that America's poorest can live for free in San Francisco and do drugs all day. And Chris says they want to act oppressed. They want to act oppressed. Yeah, they sure do. It's unfortunate. We'll take a look at one more here. Saw this coming. What happened to the land of opportunity, says Preparedness. It's there, they just don't want you to know it. Millions of users abandoned Mark Zuckerberg's latest toy just 2 weeks after launch. Wow, he looks bad. He looks really bad there. No wonder everybody always compares him to Data from Star Trek. Says Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg's new Twitter competitor Threads has seen a drop in half of all site traffic only 2 weeks after its launch, according to the Messenger. Meta's new Twitter-like platform Threads has seen a 25.4 million drop in active users, with traffic falling from 49 million active users to 23.6 in a week. According to the Messenger, Threads originally saw 100 million new users in the first 5 days, with 30 million of those coming in just the first day. I'm very optimistic about how Threads community is coming together, Zuckerberg said Monday night on Threads. Early growth was off the charts, but more importantly, tens of millions of people now come back daily. That's way ahead of what we expected. The focus for the rest of the year is improving the basics and retention. It'll take time to stabilize, but once we nail that, then we'll focus on growing the community. We've run this playbook many times. Facebook, Instagram, stories, reels, etc. And I'm confident Threads is on a good path too. I don't actually know what Zuckerberg sounds like, but that's how I imagine. It sounds like. Anarchy says too much time in the sun with his shades on. He looks burnt. Yeah. And all people said Zuckerberg's look like a robot. He does. And Moki is here. Hello today. Department likes my voice impersonation, apparently. I have no, again, I don't think I've ever actually heard him talk. Yeah, Preparedness says never use Facebook or any of its spin-offs. Insidious collection agency. Yeah. And I think that's what the problem is that it was so invasive. And once people realized how invasive it was and how much information that Threads was tapping into, that they backed off. They don't want to use it now because Facebook and Instagram are bad enough. Threads is much more invasive than Facebook and Instagram. Plus, it's a copy of Twitter, and Twitter's already a monopoly for that type of service, just like Facebook is a monopoly for its service and YouTube is a monopoly for its service. You make the argument, oh, well, you know, they get Rumble and you get all this and that. Those services don't work. If you have an audience on Rumble or any of the others, you brought it with you. Like Russell Brand went to Rumble. People will go to Rumble because they know Russell Brand. If I go to Rumble, nobody will go. I have a Rumble. Nobody's there. Okay. It's that simple. It's, yeah, Chris says he looks reptilian. It's a copy of an existing platform that's already a monopoly. And so people took a look at it out of curiosity, but quickly realized how much data they were getting sucked out for and have backed off. At least they stopped using it. Bam says, if you wonder what happens when you sell your soul, it's before and after pictures. Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Stacy said he looks scary. That's what evil does. Yeah, like George Soros Jr. Chris says, I'd like to see his MMA fight against Elon. Yeah, I've been hearing that. I wonder if that's real or how that's going to go. I guess that's one of the things you do when you've just got billions of dollars and lots of free time. Preparedness says Zuckerberg versus Musk match will be funny if it happens. It'd be like those celebrity matches they used to do in the 90s on reality TV, and they used to wear headgear that looked like they were wearing an ottoman on their head. Massive headgear and all this protective gear. When they have like Greg Brady versus, you know, somebody else, Webster. Matches like that, if you remember those days. Yeah, Claude says Threads. He looks confused. I don't know if you know what Threads is, or you're just saying, "Oh crap, Threads." But yeah, it's basically Twitter too, and people jumped on it, and a bunch of celebrities gave it a pat on the back because that's what celebrities do. But it's a clone of Twitter, and it's taken a big hit after its inaugural week, if you will. Dragon says we've reached the stage where Zuckerberg and Musk are competing at bullying politicians like a sporting match. Yeah, an ottoman. He had some stitch some sofa cushions together into an outfit and go boxing. Department says the Italian government said they could fight each other in the Coliseum. They should. That's how they should settle it instead of wasting everybody's money. Sam said you hear Biden administration's pushing to put nicotine limits on cigarettes. This is only going to push the black market and get people buying more. Yeah, because you're going to need more. You're going to need more to get through them, to get your nicotine fix. You'll have to spend even more money. And if they buy more cigarettes, that means more tax dollars. Sam, that's how that works. He says nicotine isn't bad for us, it's just addictive. Well, I wouldn't know. I don't smoke, but I never smoked. I knew a guy who used to buy really crappy cigarettes. He used to buy like the Walmart brand back when there was one. I don't know if this still is, but he said it was terrible. It tasted like smoking dirt. And so he would smoke them really fast to get through it. And before he knew what he was doing, he was smoking a carton a day. He went from like 2 packs a day to a carton, and then he had to go into a program to try to stop. Yeah, trial by combat. That's what no politician's going to do that. They're all terrified. They're afraid. They have no honor, anyways. You go to trial by combat, you're defending honor. There is none. They have no honor. They're only concerned with money. Hey, Miss Kitty. I have a guest. Miss Kitty has decided to join us. And Sam said the bad stuff is the filters in cigarettes and the actual smoking. And nicotine isn't detrimental to human beings. Preparedness says you want a shock, check out the price of cigarettes in Britain, around 20 a pack on average. Yeah, I bet most of it is taxes. Dude, smoking Doral cigarettes, imported. And then department says smoking and other drug use has no purpose. It's just a surrogate activity to cope instead of making something out of life. And that is true for a lot of people, actually, especially if they get to the point of addiction. They feed all of their energy into that instead of something productive, which is unfortunate because that's a habit a lot of people have. And with that, I will go ahead and wrap things up for the day. Thanks to everybody who joined us today. Glad you were able to get onto the live stream. Hope you got something out of it. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Thanks also again to the people that helped with the GoFundMe project for the stray animals that we take care of. Miss Kitty back there included. And the new names, of course, adding there is Richard, Timothy, Kimberly, and Robert, who have found the GoFundMe just recently. Very much appreciated. Goes a long way. Every little bit goes a long way towards helping us with the strays that we're taking care of. And we'll try to do this again. Hopefully I didn't get into too much trouble. Yes, all people. It should be saved. It should save to YouTube unless they really hit me. I've been getting a strike on every chat. Every chat I get a strike for unsuitable content, even though all I'm doing is looking at news and just talking with people. That shouldn't be a problem, but apparently it is. But it is saved, so you should be able to find it. Also, I'm looking into putting this, since I'm basically doing a podcast, I'm looking into making an official podcast and podcasting it, but still having it on YouTube as well so everybody can find it. But I'll go ahead and sign off, and we'll see you again.